Welcome, everybody, and thanks for having me. Thank you to Katie and Philip for inviting me to join you today. I think we were originally scheduled for a little bit earlier. Sorry about that. Had some technical difficulties, but happy to be sharing some time with you this afternoon. I'm just kind of curious. I usually like to get some feedback from the folks in the room. What kind of backgrounds do we have from everybody? Just real quick, what kind of work are you doing now, or have you been doing most recently in the past?
Truck driving.
Truck driving? Okay, good. Great background. Some of the truck drivers make some of the best freight brokers and freight agents, so good background. What else?
Commodities.
What's that?
Commodities.
Commodities. Oh, great. Okay, good. Somebody's got some selling skills out there, and used to doing some cold calling usually, if I understand what that job entails. Good.
Home improvement.
Home improvement. Oh, okay. Again, that's great. I'm assuming you've knocked on a few doors, made a few cold calls.
Oh yes.
Okay. All right. Oh, good. Okay. So we've got some good backgrounds here. We're going to be talking about what it takes to be successful in the freight agent business. You don't have to have a sales background. You don't have to have a background in trucking or know anything about freight, but it sure doesn't hurt if you got a little experience dealing with people. So again, topic of today's discussion is going to be why the freight brokerage business is such a great business to get into, and we're going to touch on the number one key to success in the business. Now, first of all, who the heck is Tony DeCreasy, and why should you listen to anything that I say today? And that's, I think, always the first question you should ask yourself before you're going to pay attention to anybody that claims that they may be somewhat of an expert on the topic of discussion. I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself and why maybe I've got some ideas that possibly could help you and help you shortcut your way to success a little bit. Number one, I got over 30 years of experience in business ownership in a variety of different industries. I've worked in telecommunications. I've worked in telemarketing on and off in various industries for years and years. Worked in the trucking business, was minority owner of a trucking business, been a freight broker, owned a freight brokerage firm, managed a fleet of dump trucks, been involved in the safety training business. I've been nationally recognized and received awards for a variety of sales training and sales management positions. I've literally trained thousands of people in various selling situations, all types of products and services. So over the years, I've learned a few things about what works and what doesn't work. And I'm hoping that I'll be able to share a few of those things with you to help make your job of becoming a successful freight agent a little bit easier. Very specifically, from a background of how it might help give you some good ideas on how to be successful in the freight brokerage business. I helped build a small trucking firm from the ground up, everything from starting with the licensing to doing the advertising to buying the trucks to hiring the truck drivers, and I worked as the dispatch manager for the company for almost 2 years. First year, we were able to start from ground zero to over $1 million in revenue. So I understand how the trucking business works. I understand the challenges that people that are driving trucks deal with. I understand the challenges of trucking company owners, the high cost of insurance, the turnover from drivers, the repair costs, things of that nature. I've also worked as a freight broker and owned my own freight brokerage firm, which I started from scratch. So the things that I'll be sharing with you don't come because I read them out of a book or I took somebody else's training class. It's because I actually did it. I was on the phone working with shippers, working with carriers, scheduling loads, and negotiating rates. So I know what it takes to be successful on a day-to-day basis because I lived it on a day-to-day basis. And the training that Philip went through with Freight Brokers Academy and some of the things that I'm going to share with you came from our own in-house training program that we developed for the freight agents that we hired back when I had a freight brokerage business. Now we exclusively just do training. That's the only end of the business we're in, but we're still using the same types of things that we were teaching our freight agents to do on a day-to-day basis when they were looking to make a living doing what you are getting ready to start doing. Now, why become a freight agent? I think when you're, obviously all of you are looking for a change of some sort for whatever reason. For some of you, it may be that you want to spend more time with your families. Maybe you're not making the kind of money you'd like to make. Maybe you want more freedom. Maybe you want more control over what you do on a day-to-day basis. Maybe you're in a very structured environment and you have to do what the boss says you need to do on a day-to-day basis, on an hour-by-hour basis, and you may or may not agree with that. Maybe you're looking for a better future for your family. You want to pay for college tuition for your kids. A lot of different reasons why people make changes. I'm here to want to share with you a little bit about why I think a career in the freight brokerage business, and specifically as becoming a freight agent, is a great opportunity. Number one, there's no college degree required. There are a lot of great careers out there, but some of them you need a 4, sometimes an 8-year college degree. If you want to be a lawyer, you got to go to college first and get a degree. If you want to be a doctor, you got to go to college first and get a degree. If you want to be a CPA, it's typically going to take at least 4 years of college first. If you want to be an engineer, same thing. So making a change isn't always easy, and in many cases, if we don't have the right educational background, we're limited. Well, in this case, it doesn't matter how far you've gone in school. There's no degrees required. There's also no federal or state licensing required as a freight agent. Now, as long as you're working underneath a freight brokerage firm and they're licensed, but as an agent, you don't have to worry about that. Many careers, even if they don't require a 4-year degree, do require some kind of state license. If you want to become a real estate agent, it's a licensed position in virtually every state in the country. If you want to become an insurance agent or broker, same thing, regulated by state agencies in each state. So you've got to cover that. Many other, again, CPA. Even if you've gone to college, got a 4-year degree, you still have to be licensed in each state. You go to school to become a lawyer, you get a degree, you still got to pass the state bar exam for each and every state that you want to practice law in. So one of the great things about becoming a freight agent is you don't personally have to have any kind of license to start making money. Another benefit about becoming a freight agent is there is no previous industry experience that's required. Now, if you've got some experience in trucking, if you know a little bit about freight business, that's great. It can only help you. But you don't. There have been many people who had no experience at all before they got into the business, and they were still very successful. And you can be too. Startup costs, very low compared to a lot of other businesses. Again, since you typically, you happen to be working with some folks that are going to put you in a nice office and provide a lot of things to you and for you. But in general, as long as you've got a phone, an internet connection, and a way to send and receive information, you can get started as a freight agent working underneath a licensed entity. No travel required. Again, some of you that have been in businesses, just even the local travel these days a lot of times can be so treacherous and time-consuming and not an efficient use of your time. The town I live in here in Florida, just going from one end of town to the other can sometimes take 45 minutes. 45 minutes one way, 45 minutes another way, that's an hour and a half. I've also been in a position where I've had to drive across state from one end to the other. Florida's a long state. Sometimes that'll take 4 hours, sometimes 6 hours, sometimes even longer, depending on which cities I'm traveling between. So the nice thing about being a freight agent is you can do business nationwide, but you don't have to travel anywhere. Almost nobody does face-to-face, in-person communications in the freight brokerage business. Another benefit, and why a lot of people like the freight brokerage business, is because there's no nights, there's no weekends, there's no holidays. Almost everything is done during normal business hours, Monday through Friday. And one of the huge benefits, and one of the really exciting things about the freight brokerage business, is that the income potential is unlimited. You are not capped at all. It's really just a matter of how hard you want to work, how quick you learn, and how much you apply yourself. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later as well. And one of the great things I don't think is talked about enough in this business is the longer you're in the business, the easier and more profitable it gets. And let me explain what I mean by that. The freight brokerage business is a long-term, developmental, relationship building kind of business. And it's one of those businesses that gives you the opportunity to have repeat customers. Kind of like insurance, when you sign somebody up for a policy and they keep making monthly payments and they do an annual renewal, as long as they have a car, they continue to have a car, or they continue to have a home, or they continue to have a boat, they're going to need auto insurance, home insurance, boat insurance, life insurance, health insurance. So they're going to keep renewing those premiums. And if you get them with one type of insurance, then you have the opportunity to add more. Well, the same thing works in the freight brokerage business. The key is getting that first load, helping a shipper to, when they're oftentimes maybe in need because their typical, usual trucking company or freight brokerage firm they work with dropped the ball or had a truck fall out, broke down, whatever the case is, or they ended up just having more stuff to ship than they originally anticipated, and they didn't make arrangements far enough in advance. So getting your foot in the door to get that first load is just the beginning. And you may get one load from a company that has 100 trucks, and 6 months later you're doing work for a dozen trucks, then 50 trucks. Then at some point in time, 2 or 3 years down the road, you may be the go-to person for taking care of shipments and arranging for loads for all their trucks. The first person they call, or they wait until they get that daily call from you before they talk to anybody else. Same thing on the shipping end. You may work several months to just get your foot in the door and get a shot at doing one load for a huge nationwide shipper. And that's just the beginning. Over time, it gets easier and easier to do more business, and you do more and more business, as long as you do what you say and you have steady follow-up. So one of the great things about this business is it gets easier the longer you're in it, and the money continues to grow. So it's a tremendous, tremendous benefit for being in the freight brokerage business. Now, other reasons why it's a great opportunity, I think, is because there's high demand for your services as a freight agent. There are thousands of truckloads of freight that need to move across town, across country, virtually every day. Doesn't matter where you're coming from, what day of the week it is, there's always stuff that's moving. Without freight brokers and agents, these shipments just don't get where they need to be and when they need to be there. So freight brokers and freight agents are an integral part of making everything work in this country that needs to happen. And this business really is recession-proof because freight needs to move whether the economy is good or bad. People still need to eat, so there's still going to be frozen goods shipped on refrigerated trucks and trailers. There's still construction going on. It may be down in one area. Up in the Northeast, they may not be having a lot of construction, but then down in the Southwest of the country, it's booming. The economy may be bad in Detroit, But in Miami or Houston or Memphis, it's booming. And the great thing, again, about being a freight agent is you're not limited to any geographic area. You're not limited to any particular industry segment. So what we do and what you'll learn how to do as a successful freight agent is you will learn to watch the trends and identify where the hot spots are. Where does freight need to move? Where are things hopping? What geographic area should you be working in where there's the most demand for your services? What industry should you be working in? Where's construction booming? Where is the steel industry booming? And then some where it's maybe the off season, and there's certain months of the year where there's lots and lots of plants and vegetables moving. And then there's certain times of the year where it's not. There's certain parts of the country that are cyclical and seasonal. And the quicker you learn which parts of the country slow down or pick up at certain times of the year, the easier it will be for you to be really effective, really productive, and make a lot of money. But the key is here that demand for your services is constant. Where geographically and in what industry you may be working may change from time to time, but there's never a lack of demand for the services of a good freight broker or freight agent. The other reason why you're in high demand is because bonding and licensing requirements changed a few years ago. In 2013, it used to be if you were a freight broker, you only needed to maintain a $10,000 surety bond. Well, a few years ago, that got bumped up to $75,000. That's a pretty huge increase when you think about it. More than 7 times the amount that businesses had to maintain in order to stay licensed. And this did severely limit the expansion for new freight brokerage companies, and it kind of forced some of the smaller guys out of business. The one-man show that maybe was working part-time, and even some that were working at it full-time, a $75,000 bond is not inexpensive to maintain, and you do need to generate a certain level of business to cover that overhead. So again, one of the reasons why a freight agent is such a great position is you don't have to worry about the bond. You don't have to worry about insurance. You don't have to worry about license. The freight brokerage company does. But that's one of the reasons why you're in such high demand. There are actually fewer freight brokerage firms now, but the demand for freight agents is that much higher because it's not as easy to break into the industry as a freight broker as it used to be a few years ago. So good for you guys sitting in the class there. Talk about unlimited earning potential. For those of you that, again, have some sales background, that you're working in commodities, you're working in some of those areas where, again, home improvement, there are only, and in home improvements, you usually have a territory. There's only so many houses, and there's maybe a certain income level you're looking at. There's a certain type of house that you're looking at, and it's usually geographically central. If you're working for a home improvement company in a certain town, they might only go within that city limits, maybe somewhere in that county, maybe a 50-mile radius, maybe occasionally a 100-mile radius. Well, in the freight brokerage business, you're not limited geographically. You're not limited to any industry. There are, again, it's just wide open. So in terms of how much money you can make is really just a factor of how hard you work, how well you're organized, how good a job you do in follow-up, and factors like that. And because of that, it's not uncommon for a good freight agent to earn $100,000 or more per year. So I hope you guys are all looking to make really, really good money, because that's what you have the opportunity to do in this industry. Just set your goals, be dedicated, work consistently, and the sky truly is the limit. Now, again, some of you may be looking at an opportunity because you want to spend more time with your family. And one of the other benefits that we briefly mentioned earlier was the fact that you don't work nights, you don't work weekends, you don't work holidays. I mean, you might do a little paperwork, but there's no massive amount of things you even can do during the off hours. You will rarely find a freight broker or agent working past 5 p.m. on the weekdays. This is a kind of a industry where things happen early in the day. There are a lot of people that'll start at 7 in the morning, but after 3, 4 o'clock, definitely by 5 o'clock, there's not much happening because people are looking to schedule their loads. People are looking to either get commitments from trucks for their shipments, and they want to do it as early as possible, or they need to get loads for their trucks, and they want to do that as early as possible. So unless something unusual happens and falls out, typically most of the work is done by 5 o'clock, if not long before. And as a freight agent, you're not going to find shipping managers and the other types of people you're going to be dealing with, logistics managers, warehouse managers, the people that look to secure the trucks to haul their stuff after 5 o'clock or on the weekends or on the holidays. So, you are geared to the fact that the people that you deal with to get the loads for the trucks, they're not around at night, they're not around on the weekends, they're not around on holidays, so hence, doesn't do you a whole lot of good to work nights, weekends, or holidays either. Also, again, although trucks are moving all hours of the day and night, delivering freight all across the country, the people who schedule these loads basically work Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So it's great for maintaining a family life. No travel. So those of you that are truck drivers or have been that route, you're not on the road all the time, and even at home, you're not working nights, weekends, and holidays. So great for spending more time with your kids, your grandkids, your wife, your husband, your friends. It just makes for much better family life. Now, that's a little bit about why I think that the freight brokerage business and working as a freight agent is a great business to get into. But I'd also like to talk to you a little bit about what it takes to be successful as a freight agent. And the first thing I want to do, I think there are a lot of factors that come into play, but I'd like to talk about what I believe is the number one key to success in the business. But before I tell you what I believe that key to success is, I would like to kind of get some feedback. So I've kind of unmuted the line right now. What do you guys think might be the number one key to success in this business?
Diligence.
Diligence. Okay. Persistence. Good. And that's one of those keys to success in just about any business, isn't it? So that absolutely will help you to be successful. What else?
Relationship building.
Relationship building. I did mention this is a long-term relationship building kind of business. So that is a very key, critical component in being success in the business. Not what I consider the number one key, but absolutely important. And the better you do that, the more successful you will be. Absolutely. What else?
Knowledge.
This is what you're trying to get a little bit of today and tomorrow, and it's like anything else. It's an ongoing thing. You're going to continually be learning. So it is important to have product knowledge. Those of you that have ever sold anything, you know it's much easier to sell that product if you understand the benefits of it and can communicate the benefits of it. So knowledge is very important. Not the number one key to success, but it is important. What else?
Customer service and follow-up.
Customer service and follow-up. Customer service is very important. Part of that relationship building key, again, one of the ways you build relationship is to provide good customer service. One of the ways you develop relationships is following up, doing what you say you're going to do, staying in communication. It's hard to build a relationship if you don't communicate on a regular basis, if you don't follow up. So that's very, very important. Excellent input from everybody. Not the number one key to success, I believe, but very important to being successful and one of the things you should definitely strive to do. What else?
Being consistent.
Being consistent. Consistent's good. Yeah. And consistently doing the right thing. Consistently doing most everything that people have already mentioned is good. And consistently staying away from the bad habits. So good. That's great input. That's great input from everybody. Tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and leave the line unmuted so you guys can, if you have a question, you can ask. But I'm going to go ahead and move on, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I think regarding the keys to success are. And let me first start by saying what I think you don't have to have, and what's not important in being successful in this business. Number one, it's not about how smart you are. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. You don't have to have graduated from college. You don't have to have a 3.8 GPA in high school. You don't have to be a bookworm. You don't have to be the brightest person out there. That is not the key to success in this business. It's not how good looking you are. I mean, there are some businesses, if you're a model or even in face-to-face selling, sometimes it helps to be presentable and to dress nice and, have your hair done nice and have the makeup on and all that kind of stuff. People do make judgments based on, that first impression. But in this business, people never see you. So, what you look like really has absolutely nothing to do with success in this business. You can be skinny, you can be fat, you can be tall, you can be short, you can be beautiful or ugly, it doesn't matter. It just has no bearing at all in this. It's also not how good of a salesperson you are. Now, of course, if you have sales experience, if you got a kind of personality that you like talking to people, that's helpful. But you do not have to be what many people might call a traditional salesperson to be successful in this business. And it definitely has nothing to do with the number one key to success in business. And it does not have anything to do with how much experience you have. Again, we've already talked about the fact you don't have to have any industry experience, and you don't have to have any kind of experience in any type of industry or any type of business. So people are successful in the freight brokerage business from all different types of backgrounds. And it has nothing to do with luck. I like Vince Lombardi's definition of luck, when preparation meets opportunity. But aside from that, you don't get lucky and be successful in this or any other business, and that definitely is not the case with freight agents. So what is the number one key to success in this business? Well, has anyone ever heard of the term the law of averages?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Well, do you know what it means or how it works? Who can tell me what the law of averages is or how it works? Okay. Not a trick question, just kind of curious. So I'll tell you. Basically, the law of averages works like this. The more times you do or attempt to do something, the more likely you are to get a certain desired outcome. That's all it is. The more times you do anything in repetition, the more likely you are to get whatever you want to happen. For example, even if you're a terrible basketball player, if you take enough three-point shots, you will eventually get a basket. Right? Anyone out there bad at basketball? Not very good basketball player? But even occasionally you make a shot, don't you? Everybody does. If you shoot it enough times from the free, you could be Shaq. Shaq's or was when he was playing, terrible at that free throws, but he would make them occasionally. Very low percentage, but if you're on the free throw line enough, you shoot enough free throws, you're going to get some that go in. If you're a terrible bowler, not one of my favorite sports, but I've done it on occasion. I'm pretty bad. If you roll the bowling ball down the alley enough times, eventually you're going to get a strike. You'll knock all the pins down with one ball. Not an easy thing to do. Some people better at it than others, but even the worst of us, the most uncoordinated, frail type of person, you roll it down the middle of the lane enough times, you're going to knock all the pins down with one roll. That's how the law of averages works. If you do anything in repetition enough and you're looking for a certain outcome, you'll get it a certain percentage of the time, regardless of your skill level, regardless of your knowledge, regardless of anything else, just because the numbers work in your favor. So the key, I believe the number one key to success in this business is, and the strategy you have to use is to use that law of averages, that law, and it's not a theory, it is an actual law, to your advantage in this business. And how it works is, even if you stutter, even if you don't know much about the technical aspects of freight brokerage, you don't have much, quote, product knowledge, Even if you don't have much of a personality, you're not a salesperson, not only you don't have sales experience, you're just not much of a talker. You don't even like talking to people, and you're uncomfortable talking to people. Even if you aren't the sharpest stick in the bunch, you know, you weren't the best in school, you never made straight A's and B's, you were kind of in that C level and maybe even below, doesn't matter. If you just talk to enough potential customers every day, some of them will agree to let you haul some freight for them, and you'll start earning commissions. That's how the law of averages works, and it works for everybody. Just talk to enough potential customers every day, and some of them, in spite of your skills, in spite of your experience, in spite of your knowledge, in spite of your personality, in spite of your sales ability or lack thereof, a certain percentage are just going to buy because you catch them at the right time. Doggone, glad you called. As a matter of fact, I just had a truck fall out, break down, and I need a replacement. You can give me a replacement, I'll do business with you. I'll give you a shot. Boom. You call enough people on a daily basis, that is going to happen to you over and over again. It's just the way the industry works. And not just this industry, virtually any industry. So that's I believe, the number one key to success in this business, and it really is simple. So the number one key to success as a freight agent is make as many contacts, and you want to write this down, make as many contacts or phone calls as possible each and every day. It's that simple. Now, all those other things we talked about, if you get good at building relationships, that's great. If you provide good customer service, fantastic. You know, if you learn about the industry, if you learn about the different trailers and trucks and the type of freight they're shipping, good product knowledge, that's great. If you're persistent, that's fantastic. If you persevere at it, all those things that everybody threw out, all good things, all helpful. But in spite of that, if you just do this and don't have any of that other stuff, you can survive and you'll make a decent living. And if you keep doing it day after day, you will make a really good living. And then over time, you'll learn how to do it better. You'll get product knowledge. You'll develop, you know, some sales skills. You'll develop a little more. You'll be more comfortable, so you'll be more personable, and you'll understand things, and you'll know how to respond, and then you'll get really productive. But the first key and the most important key is to make as many contacts, make as many phone calls, talk to as many people each and every day as you possibly can. Now, how many? How many is a good number? Anyone want to take a guess? Throw out a number? What do you think? What do you think would be a good number of contacts, phone calls, talk to people every day? 20.
I think
20. Okay, 20. What else? What else? Anyone else want to throw out a number? What's that?
100.
100. Okay, well, let's look at this. A phone call only takes a minute or two. And that's assuming either don't get a hold of somebody or it's a quick phone call. And even if you get into a long conversation with somebody, you probably still aren't spending more than 5 or 10 minutes or so. So if the average call takes 1 to 2 minutes and a long one takes 5 to 10, and you're working 8 hours a day, it's going to take an hour lunch break. I mean, how many calls can you make in an 8-hour day? Now, I'm going to say 20 is probably means you're not really working an 8-hour day. 20 calls you're maybe working, not sitting around watching TV, going back and forth to the fridge, you know, smoking a pack of cigarettes, you know, walking in and out of the building all the time. You know, 20 calls or contacts maybe takes an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours if you're reaching everybody, have long conversations. I'm gonna purport that if you're actually working an 8-hour day, and keep in mind, work is not digging ditches. You're not out in the hot sun. You're sitting in an air-conditioned room in a nice cushy chair and talking to people on the phone. That's work in this business. So how many calls can you make in an 8-hour day doing that? I'm going to say minimum 100, but probably if you really put your mind to it, especially when you're first starting out and you don't have a whole bunch of trucks on the road already, and you're not going back and forth, handling the logistics and all the paperwork because you got 10, 15, 20 loads every day that are moving. When you're starting, bare minimum 100 calls for dialing the phone. 150, 200, not unrealistic a goal. So set yourself up for success. Develop the right habits in that first 30, 60, 90 days. It's the most critical time in this business. The number one habit you need to develop is to make as many calls as you can every day. If you do this, that first 90 days you're in the business, you cannot fail. You will absolutely be successful. You will be wildly successful. Now, you don't get rich overnight in this business. Again, long-term, relationship building, developmental kind of business. But within 90 days, if you're making 100 phone calls, 150 phone calls, 200 phone calls a day, and you're actually talking to 40, 50, 60, 70 people a day, I guarantee you, regardless of your skill level, regardless of your salesmanship or lack thereof, regardless of your intelligence or any other factor, you are going to stumble across one or two really good prospects a day that will want to do business with you. And if you're developing one or two good prospects a day, 5 days a week, 5 to 10 a week, and then you've got 20 to 40 a month, and then before you know it, you've got a database after just 90 days of potentially hundreds of people that either want to do business with you, willing to do business with you, or are doing business with you. And then those other things like follow-up, relationship building, product knowledge come into play. But the first step is developing that database of trucking companies, individual owner-operators, and shippers that are open to doing business with a freight broker or freight agent, that don't exclusively do shipping with their own trucks. Will at least occasionally consider using an outside truck to transport their shipments. Or a trucking company or an owner-operator that's not booked solid with as many good-paying jobs as they can possibly handle, and they won't consider anything else. Someone that would be open to you and respond positively when you ask a question like, now, if I could get you a really good paying load in the area that you like to run all the time, would you want me to give you a call? And most truck drivers or trucking companies say, well, sure, why not? If you're going to give me a good paying load and it's in the areas that I drive all the time or near where I'm based, yeah, sure, call me. I mean, that's it. It's not a complicated business. It's really very simple. Not easy, because here's the key. Takes some self-discipline. Most freight agents don't have someone looking over their shoulder every hour of the day. And even sometimes if you're working in the office with others, it's still easy to kind of goof off. Still easy not to get into bad habits, those kind of things. So really the key is self-discipline, motivation, focus, setting the goals, and really developing those habits. Those first few weeks you're on the phone, as many calls, as many contacts as you possibly can. And don't worry about all the details. Don't worry about all the other stuff. That'll come if you just develop the habit of making as many contacts as you possibly can each and every day. It is almost impossible not to be wildly successful in this business. And that, my friends, is the number one key to success as a freight agent. The more calls you make each hour, day, week, and month, the more successful you will be and the more money you will earn. And you can take that to the bank. Now, before we go into it, I'm going to do a little Q&A here for everybody, but I wanted to just, was going to do something a little special for you guys. Really excited for Philip and Katie and getting their broker's business off the ground and what they're trying to do for you to give you an opportunity. We have a relatively new Facebook fan page at Freight Brokers Academy. And what I would ask is for any of you that felt that this little first initial segment was helpful and that you got maybe one or two ideas out of it was beneficial, I would ask that sometime maybe this evening or sometime tomorrow or whenever you get a chance, you just check out our Facebook fan page and you just like us. Click on like or leave a little comment. If you liked this little segment, if you thought it was helpful and beneficial in terms of giving you some ideas, leave a little comment. We appreciate it. Like our page. It kind of helps us get more exposure. And any of you that do that, actually go like the page, make a little comment. I will make sure, either directly or through Katie and Philip, I will get you a free supplemental audio training program on one of our previous, we do regular supplemental training at Freight Burgers Academy, and I will get you one that I think is very significant in helping you in the early stages of becoming a successful freight agent. So that'll be our little thank you for just going to our Facebook fan page, clicking on like, or making a comment if you thought that this was beneficial. So we appreciate it. Now, tomorrow we're going to get into the nuts and bolts, really detailed on what successful freight agents do on a day-to-day basis. And I'm sure that Philip will be going through the outline of that, and really excited to be sharing some of those things with you. But I'm going to open it up very briefly to just any quick questions, if anybody has any, on any of the things that we covered so far today, or a question on anything, even just starting out as a freight agent, general questions. So I'll open it up to the group.
I had a quick question. I want to confirm that the people that you are looking to call are trucking companies, owner-operator, and freight agents. Is that correct?
Trucking companies, owner-operators, and what was the third one?
Freight agents?
Well, no. See, you're a freight agent. You are kind of like a freight agent. That's you. So you're not calling other freight agents. You're calling trucking companies and owner-operators. And then the other end of the spectrum is you're calling shippers. So your job is to put shippers, and shippers are like manufacturing companies, wholesalers, distributors, growers, entities that have commodities that need to go from point A to point B. So a steel company that needs to ship steel pipes out. A lumber company that's shipping out lumber, either cut down trees or actual lumber that's going to a lumber yard or what have you, those type of things. And matching them up with trucking companies or owner-operators that are looking for loads. So that's really who you're contacting. Shippers on one end and carriers on the other end, and matching them together. Good question.
Okay, got it.
What else? Who else has any questions?
I had a question in regards to that lumber you just talked about. If I was to get a shipper person information, just about making a connect is just about getting the shipper's information and bringing it back to Mr. Howard, or how does that connect?
Well, I mean, there's different ways you can do that, but ultimately, as a freight agent, what you're going to do is, now, sometimes freight agents work in teams, and when you're part of a company and there's other freight agents, you might find a shipping account, and you may not have a whole bunch of trucking companies yet, especially starting out. So depending on how you guys work it out, you may secure a shipping account. Somebody else may find the trucks to haul that, and you guys might split commission on it. Now, again, not knowing exactly how that's set up, but that could be one way to do it. As a freight agent, ultimately, you want to be able to find the shipper, a company that's willing to let you help find trucks to haul their loads, and then also find the trucks to haul the loads, so you get both ends of the commissionable event. So, again, it could be, I've got a shipper here. We need to find some trucks to haul this load. And especially when you're brand new, that may be the case, because you may not have anything built up your first day or two, or even the first week or two. But ultimately, you want to be, and this is why the law of averages is so critical, you want to be building up a database of trucking companies and owner-operators as large and as fast as you can, so that if a shipper opportunity comes around, you've got potential trucks waiting for good-paying loads. Vice versa, you want to be building up potential shippers as well, as many as you can, as quick as you can. so that you've got good paying loads to give your trucking companies and your owner operators, so they're excited and they'll want to do more business with you. So it's a two-edged sword. You can't just work on one end and ignore the other. When you're starting out, you want to be building both ends of the spectrum at the same time, developing shippers and developing carriers, as many as you can, as quickly as you can. And that's, again, another reason why that law of averages and making as many calls and as many contacts as you possibly can each and every day is so critical to your success, especially in the early stages in this business. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good question. What else? All right. Well, guys, I appreciate you giving me a little bit of time today. Again, if you get the opportunity, please like us on our Facebook fan page. Philip, Katie, thanks again for having me. I wish you guys the best of success, and I know everybody's going to be real excited about tomorrow, getting into more of the nuts and bolts of really what you do on a day-to-day basis as a freight agent. So, everybody, thanks again. Have a great rest of the day, and hopefully have a great and successful day tomorrow.